But let me just get started. So very nice to see everyone, and I see a few familiar faces. I'm Jay. I have been I was at RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology, for 22 years. I was a faculty member there. I was department chair for computer engineering. I was director of research for Global Cybersecurity Institute. I just moved to Gonzaga University, which is, in case you're wondering, that is in Spokane, Washington, Pacific Northwest. Beautiful campus. I'm there to start a new institute for informatics and applied technology. But given a lot of things that I've done with TrustAI and the community, I enjoy coming over here to talk to you about this topic. You heard in the morning about the use of AI or generative AI for cybersecurity, cyber defense. And we have been doing this research for a few years, and we have some findings here with you. I'm hoping that this particular session we have is going to be a lot of interactions, dialogue. I'll use a few slides just to kick us off. And I know I want to use a few slides to kick us off, and then I would like to turn into some questions. I prepared a few questions for us to have more conversation in this area. All right, so not this one, this one. Okay, so the first couple slides, I just want to give you an idea that right now I'm still working on two NSF funded projects. One is actually to create a training program for cybersecurity professionals. In fact, that shameless advertisement. So we are working on a training program. We have a pilot program last spring, and we're going to have another program running this spring, and it'll be even better than the first one. And it'll be free. It will be free for practitioners. So I'm going to pass this along. This is a training program that's going to happen in the springtime, 2025. This NSF funding project is to create this training program. We're working with, so I was here at Gonzaga. We're also working with education researchers in University of Rochester, Warner School of Education, to develop this training program. And I'll talk about more in details about it, and I'll discuss a little bit about our findings through the first year. The other project I've been working on and collaborated with a professor in RIT, which was my colleague, is develop some kind of co-pilot, right? Some kind of co-pilot, not a Microsoft co-pilot, but some kind of pen test co-pilot for learning purposes, for curated data purposes. So this project is new. This project just started in June, July. So we just get it started right now. So based on those projects and things we worked on before, I have a few points about what we have found so far. And these are a few very high-level concepts that we have found through our research. First is that, so how many of you are AI experts? A little bit? Okay, good. So the previous generation of AI, the many generation expert system, BaseNet and things like that, all the way to neural nets, deep learning neural nets, and to the most recent, the generative AI, the large language models. It's very different in this newer version of it, which is also decoder-based LLMs versus encoder-based. The decoder-based LLM are the one that you know about today, the GPTs, Gemini, Llama, and so on and so forth. It's very different than it is. I will share with you, if you didn't know too much about it. This kind of language model, large language model, is really language-based, right? In a sense that it's not meant for, I'm going to predict this is a table, that's a chair. That's different. That's more of the neural net trying to focus on a very accurate prediction, classification. This one is more focused on language, how the tokens, subwords associate with each other. It's meant to be uncertain. Think about this, right? The way you speak, the way I speak right now, speaking English, is not meant for every single time I speak, going to come up with the exact same word, exact same phrases, right? It's not meant for that. So the generative AI is not meant for accurate, deterministic predictions. It's not meant for that. So just want to make sure that we understand on the same page here, because if you want to use so-called AI, but you're referring to ALMs, or some kind of prediction, you shouldn't be doing that. It's not meant for that purpose. Second point that probably have heard of RAG, retrieval augmented generation, couple of you. So the newest LLM, GPT and alike, right, there are many other models. There are many ways to do this. First of all, if you're not a tech giant, so you don't have billions of dollars, don't worry about building a foundation model yourself. Right now, not at this point. It's too costly. And then people talk about refinements, right? Fine-tuning, alignment. Yeah, maybe you can do it. In academia, almost unlikely to do that for some operational purposes. More affordably and easier to adopt is RAG, retrieval augmented generation, to help to use LLM for certain purposes. You cannot look at it, you can take a look. There's a lot of RAG best practice being published, disseminated over the past year and two. So take a look. The other thing we found is that teaching non-AI experts, in this case, cybersecurity professionals, about large language models, about the use and scripting of large language models is a lot easier than teaching the cybersecurity professionals about building a classifier, a neural net, a classroom algorithm. Because all those things does require a lot of math and other things behind the scene. It takes a longer time to ramp up to that knowledge base and understand what to do. Large language models are much, much easier for non-AI expert to learn quickly to use. We have done that in this past spring. There are a few other things that we'll continue to work on. One is pen testing. Many of you know what pen testing means. It's basically there's a hack the box challenges, CTF, and other things like that. Essentially, that people have been pushing to say pen testing using this generative AI is feasible. Not always successful, but feasible. One of the techniques that people are using is called DAN, do anything now. DAN, if you have not heard of it, search for it, D-A-N, DAN, do anything now. So it's a jailbreak technique. Jailbreak means that you're trying to break so that LLM will give you some responses, like how do you build a bomb, similar to how to exploit particular vulnerability, right? Sometimes it works, something doesn't, but the question now becomes ethical, right? Can we do it? Should we not do it? And how to deal with this? Finally, my student and I were working on this notion called proof RAG. The idea of proof RAG is actually not just to generate something to you, but also to the user, but also providing the provenance, right? Why and how do I come to that generated outputs to you? Not just give you the output, but tell you where I got it from. Okay, so that's a proof RAG. Like I said, just a few slides, we're almost there. I will give you a few examples. Now is the first exercise. I mean, I was a professor, so need to have a quiz, right? Ready for the quiz? How many of you are cybersecurity professional analysts or knows vulnerability? A few of you. It's okay. It's not a real quiz. You're okay. You will pass. You'll pass. Here are some examples. I know it's hard to read. There are a few examples here. What I want you to, so how this came about is that so my students, he crafted a pipeline where he used GPT-4o mini and with some prompt engineering RAG techniques, proof RAG techniques, and just give a CVE number. In this case, it's 2024, and GPT-4o mini did not get updated in 2024. It was last update was supposed to be 2023, November, December. So then they shouldn't know this CVE now, but a lot of CVE are like a new reincarnation of the previous CVEs. So they could know something about it. They could infer based on the descriptions. So the question is that we give them the CVE number, ask them, hey, can you summarize how does this exploitation work? Question one. And question two is a way to mitigate this problem. Okay? It's non-trivial. So far, if you just blindly ask GPT-4o mini, is gonna be bad, really, really bad, right? Nothing too much that come out of it. So you see some labels here. Let's see, one can move that. So this one on this side is actually these are the preliminary examples. This example shows that the response is pretty good. This one is what we call a failed retrieval. So some content were there in the website, CW website, a VD website, but they didn't give all the details. This is more hallucination detected, so they provide some content. They are not in the authoritative website, MVD or CWE, somehow error generated. So we are working on improving the amount, the percentage of better, what we call the true positive responses, but at the same time, provide prominence and rationale on why does this LM generate this response? But by the way, all of this is automatic. This is not being crafted by a human. So how do they generate this failed retrieve or hallucinated responses? Okay, so provide that. So the quiz for you is maybe take a look at the one in the middle. I know it's hard to read, but those who are actually familiar with SQL injection, is this SQL injection related? And you can search for 2024-6172 on the webpage. You probably can find what vulnerability that is. And you can tell me, just read it. Tell me what you think. Is this something here that was supposed to be on the website that's not provided? Do you agree that the LM is actually doing the right job to say that there's some content that's supposed to retrieve but not retrieve? What do you think? Do you agree with that? Or do you think this is sufficient? Any thoughts? I don't have a candy or anything to give to people.
So are you saying that, is the question that is the generative AI tool providing accurate synthesis and analysis?
Yes and no. So the one in the middle, what generative AI, the one we developed shows that it is not sufficient. This particular response right here does not capture everything it's supposed to generate. We call it failed retrieval. It gives some elements, it also update the Icegram Express package, right? But it does not give more details than it's supposed to. This what we call context, this portion, these few lines, were direct retrieval from the URLs, NVD website, CW website. Those are actual word by word from there. Some sentence here and there, not like the entire paragraph. This is being generated. What I'm asking you is, do you think that is this a good enough response? We should say, hey, this is good enough, don't worry about it. We shouldn't call it failed retrieval FR. We call it failed retrieval FR at the top. Because our systems say, this is not bad, it's just that it's not good enough. So we call it failed retrieval. So my question is, do you think that this response, these few lines, is sufficiently good, or are they miss something from the context below here? Yes.
So I think mitigation strategies need to capture how to mitigate, the SQL injections.
Yeah.
So I don't see that it tells little bit, but it doesn't give exactly this.
It is written.
Yeah.
The method is written, but not the syntax, not the code is written.
Yeah, not a syntax, right? This gives you just a very brief high level.
Yeah, high level it is written.
Not actual,
Yeah, the solution is parameterized queries.
Yeah.
I think when you're looking at generative AI, just as you've put buckets of detailed, filled, and hallucinate, it really depends on the expertise of the person using the tool.
Good point.
Because, and this is the challenge right now with generative AI, is that if a novice takes this, they have no idea if this is sufficient or not.
Right.
It takes an expert to say this is and this is not. The bigger question is, from a research perspective, is can you create a rubric to create more valuable information from the generative AI tool? So can you get the tool to adopt a framework or rubric that provides you better responses?
Absolutely. So I think that thank you for saying that. That's exactly why we started to say we need to define what hallucination detected means, what it means by failed retrieval, and what it means, I block this true positive, right? So yes, indeed, that these are meant to support the novice or experts. So they're not saying that, oh, I only read that, I think it's the gospel and I just adopt, right? We will provide a rationale. We believe that this generation is reasonable, but too high level. So we say it's fail retrieval. We give a rationale why that's the case, that's a fail retrieval, and we copy paste right in a way, as LLM copy paste. This is the response, and this is from the LLM. That's the difference. So that the analyst, whether it's novice, expert, can review that, make determinations.
Or teach the system.
Getting better and better, yes. That's the refinement, fine tuning and alignment processes.
Right.
So I don't want to go over this too long. When we come back to these examples, but we are working on this. We should submit the paper pretty soon. And then we love to get some feedback from the community. Like you said, agree. Yes, please.
Lastly, before you move to next one.
Yeah.
Again, it's required, how the prompt engineering, the person's how he's giving the prompts.
Right.
So that's kind of, again, if you are not well trained, how to give the, detailed prompt.
Right. So the prompt engineering that we did utilize a particular way of RAG, and we are releasing the prompts, the source code, and the scripts for people to adopt. And we're sharing the experience on what works, what didn't work. You are correct that if you randomly add some arbitrary and bad grammar out of this and that, you're not going to get quality responses. That I agree, yes.
I have a question. How does that HD or hallucination detected work really? Because is the LLM understanding it actually hallucinated or?
So it's multiple LLM running
Ah.
parallel, right? So we have first a generation LLM, right, that generate this. And then there's some kind of provenance or evaluation LLM to look at the response, comparing to the actual website to say, does it generate things that has nothing to do with what's actually on the website? Right, if that's the case, because LLM actually, so this is another thing, right? LLM is not actually very intelligent. LLMs are actually good at summary comparison, text comparisons, right? So if you give him very specific text to compare, yes, it can tell you there's something here that's not here. That's hallucination detected. But again, are they perfect? No, they are not, right? Just like I said earlier, it's not meant for accuracy. So there's a few examples we can talk about more. Now, this is the main part, right? I want to share with you, I want to discuss with you these 5 questions. I think the point just made was very important, whether it's your students, practitioners, or faculty, or staff members. I want to hear your thoughts. In what way do you think, this is just one example, you given a CV number, how to mitigate, right? There are many other ways, pen testing and this and that. Defining, one of my students is working on Amazon Cloud Service Architecture. Can you use LLM to revise and improve that architecture? There are many ways people are trying to work on different applications. So the question one is what way do you think that practitioners need most, like cybersecurity practitioners need most for generative AI? Second question, so I talked about this previously earlier, that Gen AI is a little bit different from the previous AI advances. But also, what a misperception, we can discuss that. And how do we deal with this really fast evolving, right? Very soon, I'm pretty sure by the end of this year, there'll be another version will be released. Strawberry just released by OpenAI, and things will get released again quickly. How do we, as an industry, as a community, adapt to this so fast kind of evolving situation? And finally, what does responsible AI mean in this context? Responsible use of AI for cybersecurity. So this is a thing I want to come back and stick with it and for us to talk about. Just to give you a sense, the handout I gave out, right? Feel free to share, feel free to let me know if you're interested or you know someone who might be interested in that training program. It'll be mostly remote except the Friday of April 11th. That right now planning on to be at RIT, the cyber range, to do that final exercise. Travel, scholarship, travel support might be available, depending on how many people we can do. But the last one can also be remote. So it's a high flag session we're planning on. Hopefully you have at least about half and half, so that'd be great. But take a look if you're interested, please reach out to me via email. If you can help me with the subject line, it'll be much easier, something like that. I can use LLM to make it easy. If you misspell or anything extra word, that's okay. But something like that will be easy. Lastly, and then we'll come back to the previous slide, is that because of my position, we're recruiting AI cybersecurity engineers to kind of jumpstart the Institute for Informatics. I'll come back. So these are the questions I really want to discuss with the club. What do you think? Any of these questions? Other questions? What are your thoughts? Students, what are your thoughts?
Kind of the way I see it with using generative AI is it's more of an assistant tool and something that can help with the thought process and the production process, but you can't rely on it for those very reasons that you discussed. So it has to be corroborated with actual experience and professionalism. You also have to be careful with what data you're feeding it, as well as that. There's lots of restrictions with that. So the way I see it is kind of just a tool that can be extremely useful for, speeding up those kind of processes. But, it's a tool. It's not going to be, it's not the end all.
I like it. I like it. I'll give you a good grade, but go ahead. Yes, please.
I think a common misperception with generative AI is that it's creative. It's derivative. And
Yes, it is.
And that's very important because as a derivative tool, any student should be able to deconstruct the answer and come up with citations to support the veracity of it. If they can't, then, so in that way, it can be ethically used to show a student how to get to an answer. They've gotten to the answer, now reverse engineer it. How did it come to be? But if it comes up with something original, it's probably a hallucination.
So it's very interesting. I agree with you, general concept. I agree that the generative AI is actually not creative. Generative AI is used as a tool to foster creativity, in my opinion.
Right.
Right? So it's not a creative tool itself, it's a tool for creativity. The subtle differences. I've heard from a professor in Portland State University, he's using generative AI to foster computer science students' creativity on developing all kinds of application tools, just try it out and imaginations and things like that. So I agree with you, itself is not creative. It's derivative, is summarization, is synthesis. It's not created by itself, but you can use to foster human creativity.
Absolutely, but if you're talking about SOC operations, I don't want novices being creative in SOC operations.
That's point. That's very good. I absolutely agree with you. That I absolutely agree with you. I'm talking about in general, but you're absolutely right. I agree with you.
Dealing with users of AI, I run in SOC, and we are currently in the process of getting a lot of ideas from people at August who would like to involve generative AI, things like writing reports, assessments, doing report outs on tabletop exercises, using it to do code generation for infrastructure that's being done in GitHub, so GitHub Copilot. The problem is that in order to be helpful, it has to be provided with a lot of context.
Yes.
And I don't trust any of the AI models to not use that context in a way that I haven't approved. And so like a lot of the things that we find really interesting, like there's a new Claude has a capability where you can define a project, right? And you can provide it with a lot of context. I could upload policy documentation and incident response procedures and scan results and also like Zeek logs. And I could put that all in a container and give it to Claude, and I can talk to Claude like it's an analyst who can have perfect recall of all this information. That's super, super fantastic. But I don't trust what they'll do with the information, and the people that are giving us their security data don't want us to do that. And so like there's a need to have much more control over the scoping of these models so that if I want to use it in that sort of situation, I need to be able to enclave it and say, this data lives here, it goes no farther, you learn from it, and it doesn't.
I absolutely agree. I think the mindset and the way that he described the mindset is actually very important of the users of this tool. By the way, there are people doing research right now to make that capabilities better and better because it's calling different meta exploit and other things at the same time. There's a comment over there.
I think you can license it so that you can have an on-prem version of it that does not speak to the larger mothership.
Is that for Claude?
For Claude, I believe. Yeah. The thing that I was thinking about with the really fast evolving generation AI, generative AI, is before you didn't have, you saw script kiddies that would go onto the web and they would sort of attack, but they were just getting your basic stuff and they don't know what they're doing, so they're relatively harmless. But with generative AI, the concern is that you're going to have, like with Strawberry and so forth, you're going to have the latest iteration of the code development that's going to be pretty good. And so you're going to have script kiddies who now are having these tools that are going to amplify the damage they might be able to do.
I actually, one of the things I'm concerned about, but I don't know how I can do it, is that if you have a large sub-company like the IU, right? You want to think about your red team. Need to try this, be creative on the red team side, because the adversary is going to be very creative using this tool to create the next exploits that you have not thought about if you don't try yourself. So that, I mean, I would imagine the reporting on vulnerability is going to be faster and faster. My prediction is going to go up because of you can use this to do things a lot faster than previously. I'm just thinking about how do I change my code so they can exploit the next one. But now this could be very innovative. So that red team part for big SOC will be needed.
Jay, I'm sorry to interrupt, but let everybody know it's refreshment break time.
Oh, okay, yeah. They grab the orders already. But yes, if you need to go grab, come back, it's fine. Don't use this excuse to come out and not come back. Please continue. If you need to grab your refreshment, feel free to do so. But other points, other feelings? Yes.
Let's say like using AI on the red team side, one of the things that we're experimenting with Claude is to provide it with a lot of context data and ask it to create attacks that we can use in table-level exercises. So it's been fairly useful. I don't know if it's creative, but it certainly is very good at saying, like, if we have minor attack and we know where the detections are, we can say, create a scenario that we would have to respond, or how would you attack this that we have for it? And it's very good at thinking of things that are happening.
So I'm imagining on that particular note, I'm imagining, again, I'm not doing this, but I'm imagining someone who be minor themselves is a red team on the contract, say, if I'm APT 29, what would I do? What would be my next move? So that kind of exercise, I think that could be potentially be done, but I don't know whether that's true or not. But you can imagine it could be happening. So the other thing I want to come back to is that mindset shift, right? I think this audience seems like a little bit more perceptive and receptive of the use of AI, generative AI in the right way, right? As a tool, as a supplement, as assistance, not as something to predict and tell you everything about the data. That's something that we work on in our training program is for whether it's novice or mid-career cybersecurity professionals, how to teach them some basic technical skill, but at the same time, a mindset shift, right? Your help, I would love to hear from you that what kind of mindset, the control environment, what kind of mindset do we want to make sure that the practitioner leaving the training program would have? So don't think about AI will do all this for me, or AI, if I don't give any context, I can trust it, right? So what kind of mindset should I want to make sure the practitioners leave our training program would have? Because that would be a very important part, probably even more important than the technical skills. So if you have any thoughts, feel free to reach out to me. I think I might contact flyers, other things like that. But what do you think? What are the mindsets that, this is really the fourth question, third question. What are the mindsets you think that the SOC people or analysts in general or students should have in terms of what this is, what this is not, what kind of things should be worked on? What kind of mindset? Thank you. We had a prize. He left. He won't have the prize. No. Any other thoughts? Have you used generative AI? I think that the one who left, they were using that you were using as well. What else? Anyone that used generative AI in their SOC operations, security, generating code, try to create some kind of SSH comment? Yes, please.
So in our, we use generative AI to find out a new scenario. Because we asked the generative AI, almost all times he said, okay, so security will not that. In some cases, we received the answer, it's a new one.
Okay.
So we want to identify the new scenario too, because the new scenario we don't have any countermeasures. So we have to build up new countermeasures as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So we use the generative AI to find that kind of new scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. And then speaking of that, they remind me about I think the volume of phishing attack, the volume of spear phishing attack has gone up in my personal experience, even though I'm not the CAO CISO. What do you think? Has the phishing attack become more and more sophisticated? What do you think in your experience? Yes, no?
Yeah, I think phishing attack became more, previously we used to know by, reading the grammars, reading the things. Now they make like more, this helps to get mimicking exactly very close to reality. So it's very easy to get,
I think the turnaround time is shorter. The volume is higher on the phishing, and the sophistication, the realism is getting more and more. I was in a workshop that the person is a company provide phishing training. So he said that it's no longer some of the assumptions they had about a couple of years ago no longer valid, because just checking on URL sites, because they can make that change a lot. And I'll tell you the turnaround time, my personal experience. I started Gonzaga August 16th. Within 5 days, actually 5 calendar days, not 5 business days, I got a text from the president of Gonzaga texting me saying that, hey, are you available to? So how do they get my phone number? I mean, they probably can know it from social media. I just moved. But how do they get my phone number and knows the president actually has been in contact with me? How do they know that? They made one mistake, so I detected it. 2 mistakes, actually. But still, the turnaround time is so unbelievable. I just joined. I had nothing to do with Gonzaga before August 16th, not officially. It's just how fast it's fascinating.
Yeah, it's the speed of tailoring based on current events that generative AI is really fabulous at for phishing. One of the things they did in my community was, as soon as they published all the road associations, so in Maine, we have a lot of private roads, and so there's a lot of private road associations. So as soon as and every year they have to publish that, and so what they did is they somehow had generative AI, they uploaded all the lists of all of and they had them search on the treasurer and created a list of hundreds of treasurers from road associations, from the president of that road association, asking for a check to be cut. And they were successful in about 20% of those.
Wow, yeah, it's so bad.
And it's just being, they're creative, but they're creative with whatever we're putting on, on
the automation of updated list somewhere on the web internet.
Well, it's just that municipalities are savvy about the information that they're putting out from their citizens. And it's the tension between transparency and then vulnerability.
Yeah. And the realtor thing association is getting, just like you said, any new listing, any new purchase, any of those offers become a means to get money, because buying a house is a big transaction. So that also leads to, so there's a lot of things that people try to be very careful about in that area. So again, the automation, because it's an AI, it's a red team that we talk about. It's a red team exercise is very important. We'll think about how we put that into our training program. Do you have any question about the training program? Let me move over there just a little. And then want to hear not just whether you're wanting to, I mean, if you want to join, please feel free to let us know. But yes.
I think one of the interesting things about the training program and like learning about, let's say you become an expert in APTs, or you have understandings of how to use the systems. The attacker also understands those baselines. And just as you're doing the training and you're sort of getting, well, this is how you look for threat hunting and so forth. It seems to me that the creative element that's going to be amplified by the generative AI is say, well, this is how the attacks normally happen. We have that in our RAG. Now we're going to be more creative. Give me an attack that doesn't follow any of these principles, that has the baseline or gets me where I want to go. So I think the mindset of creativity is going to have to be more emphasized than building the. I believe you have to have the fundamentals. You have to understand sort of the structure. But I think that in the real world, that it's going to be very counterintuitive because the attacks aren't going to follow general principles, or they're going to be circumventing what we consider to be sort of the canon of how things happen.
Absolutely. So I think that one of the things that we work with education researchers ourselves is definitely more focused on the mindset. So creativity mindset is very important there. I think that at the end, we are not focusing a lot of fundamentals here. I think that we assume that people incoming, they know a little bit scripting, they know the different network services. We're not going to go through network 101 to start with. It's more for people who has that background now. They wanted to have this mindset, maybe a little bit of generative AI scripting, because that probably is newer for most people, and how it applies to looking at grade logs or some of the other logging system. As an example, not as that's the only. We're not going to be specific to one tool. It's more about how the use of generative AI could be helpful. One idea that we had on the first pilot program, thank you for saying that creativity, was to try to see how the participants can be creative on using this, creating it. We only have very few participants, so it didn't work out the way we wanted it. Hopefully have more this time, and then we can actually foster that creativity and try to see. I mean, sometimes creativity comes because you see, oh, that person did that. I never thought about it, right? Because now you can brainstorm and get that going. That will be great. And we have some ways that educational researchers suggested about think, pair, share is a technique that from education, more for andragogy, how working professionals could utilize a teamwork kind of feel to foster that creativity in a teamwork environment. Thank you for that comment. Other suggestions, comments, your personal, I mean, you can say that, no, I don't believe the generative stuff. That's not gonna work. This will not work. I have no belief, no reason to want to do that. You can say that. This is the open forum for us to have that conversation. What do you think? Have you heard from anyone that you work with to say, I would never use this stuff?
I hear from a lot of my fellow faculty that they're very concerned that when they generate, a lesson plan and they've got their intellectual property that is part of the lesson plan, and say it's a case study, that the students are uploading it into ChatGPT to generate some ideas for an answer. All of a sudden, their intellectual property is compromised. So,
interesting. I think that as we go on, I don't have answer to this. Maybe Jim has some ideas, but I think there was some. You were talking. Cloud has this way you can make sure everything stay within campus, right?
There's a lot of corporations that I know, outside from Cleveland, so we have some design teams from Fortune 500 companies, and they are very, very leery. They don't use it so that they don't want their intellectual property of the corporation being absorbed into the mothership. Right. So they have on-premise only, and then they run it that way, so that they want that break. But that is a big issue, I think, just in the corporate world, and I'm sure with the
but that requires you local GPUs. That's not going to be affordable for most people.
not from a main state university.
Yeah, I mean, you think about small business, medium size, there's no way. That's part of the issue. I think I was thinking about differential privacy, federally learning kind of advancements that is needed. Unfortunately, we're not there yet. Yeah, so those number of GPUs is not going to work out. But what if there's a cloud provider guarantee that will stay within the confine, right? But then let's say the model was elsewhere. There may be a business model that could work out that way. I don't know. Anyone aware of that kind of business model? Yes.
So there is this is proxy range. This is similar to homomorphic encryption mechanism.
Yeah.
the proxy encryption base, those edited learning mechanism, that will keep your data on your premises. It will not leave your premises. So I built one of the patent, one of the product. This was invented at Johns Hopkins. I was the first person to make commercially viable product out of that.
But do we have that now that people can actually adopt and purchase and use that service?
They try to learning right now, still learning phase, and people are not familiar with this much. So it's kind of big corporation. They have started Facebook and all. They already started giving this kind of different versions of proxy encryption base.
Yeah. So I have a question. What's your name?
Charlie.
Charlie. So you say on-premise GPUs, right? Have you looked at other models, whether any other feasible model for people who cannot afford to buy 100 GPUs?
Well, I know with, I was a Oracle, last year I was teaching at the university, but I was an Oracle fellow working with their cloud computing and so forth. And some of the models that they were looking at were either a small language model doing something similar, maybe 80 to 90% of the performance, but you put it on your desktop. The other was they had various ways to sequester the information. So if you said, I have HIPAA data, or I have this, or I have that, that cannot be allowed to get outside of certain parameters, they would sort of work on that. And I think that's what they were looking at with some of the similar kinds of parameters for the generative AI, that there would be certain guarantees that you'd be able to do something, but it would be sandboxed from other applications.
Oracle. Joseph Barnes talk about inference, yes, but if you want inference, you need to put in prompts. Your prompt, your context is the intellectual property that could be reviewed if you use, let's say, OpenAI, right? That's the issue. Jim, you raised your hand, you have some thoughts?
Licensing models?
Yeah, some kind of model so that the inference, whatever it is, that doesn't leave the premise or the confine that, doesn't get used to train, right? So your intellectual property, your data won't leak down.
So in Illinois University of Illinois, we have Microsoft Copilot data protection. So it's supposed to stay in our plan. It's still not for sensitive data, but at least for our internal use, we have some protection on the data that we use to track the system.
Okay, so I think Gonzaga is also using the Copilot, Microsoft Copilot for that purpose. What's your experience? Do faculty staff like that, or?
It's pretty new, so.
Yeah, the Copilot, I personally have limited experience with it. I think this capability is a little bit lower than the other ones. Yeah, right now, but we'll see. Anyone else has some experience? But definitely that, how do you have that on-site allowing people to use it for their business model?
So is your Copilot encapsulated so it's not sharing outside of the cluster?
Right.
So aren't you creating this Copilot for the SOC?
Oh, so we just continue to use the word Copilot. So this particular Copilot is for, so the users, so our training program, the users can develop it like as a local run Copilot, or they can run it through, we are not worrying about the business model or operational model for our practitioners. In our training program, we are using the OpenAI for fictitious data, fictitious scenarios. So we're not worried about that. But the participants, once they train, however they want to use it in their home institution, is up to them.
I think it's going to be really important for you to make sure the students understand the vulnerabilities.
Good point.
And that,
Good point.
that because they're learning to do something that if they repeat in the real world will get them in big trouble.
That's a very good point. You're saying that the mindset of, hey, right now in this exercise, you're using OpenAI API, but when you go back, you want to be sure that, are you allowed to do that? Can you do that? Things like that, just make sure that the understanding is clear. So that's a very good point. Yes, I will absolutely adopt that. Thank you. Yeah.
Jumping off of like the privacy and kind of on-prem, for using Gen AI in military software, they have to get certain types of AI approved for like IL6 and IL7. So do you have any thoughts on?
I don't. I really have no idea about the regulation or compliances. Anyone else know about that? I don't. I only knew that it's not about military, it's for space operations. The computers, the chips that you are using in the space operations is totally different. It's usually several generations older for the space operation, not just because it's delayed, but all the regulation compliance. So I'm assuming it will be something similar, but I do not know the current situation. Anyone else? And for anything else that you might be, there was another comment? No. Is that first? All right, so I think that where are we right now? Right time. Oh, we are 2 minutes. 2 minutes, 2 more minutes. Any last minute comments? If no last minute comment, just putting this ad over here. Then we'll be looking to start this new institute. I'll be hiring AI engineers, cybersecurity engineers and the idea is not just to serve the institute, right? This institute, but also really serve the entire higher educational space. It started with Gonzaga, right? Working with biology professor, chemistry professor, health science professionals. So in a way, it's like a researcher, but not a faculty. Doesn't have the faculty tenure kind of stress. All right, thank you very much.